How's it going, everybody? Let's wait and see who we get in to the class. How's it going, guys? I'll stand there if I want. Says, you want me to do a dance? Who we got here? We've got Martin, seen Catherine. Now I've noticed there's a bit of a delay on these videos sometimes, so if I can't see your question or anything right away, don't think I'm ignoring you. Also, for a good part of this, I'm going to be demonstrating some thrusts at the Pell here, and so I may not be able to see the screen very well. Hi, Angela. Okay, real quick, I'm going to do a camera test here to see if anything better with this. Okay. Spin that around again. Okay. So I've got one more minute. Let's give everybody another minute to join. We've had some great classes these last 2 weeks. It's pretty impressive. It'll be neat to see us keep this up and have more classes and, you know, have those recordings to go back to for reference as well. Okay, we're gonna give it just another minute and then I'll get started. Mahadi, how's it going? As you guys can see, the weather here is really nice. Just amazing weather today. That's why I decided to do this outdoors. This is actually the area where I have most of my backdoor practices. So, okay. So I've got 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Everybody else can catch up. Shouldn't be that difficult to catch up with what we're doing. So I'm going to come over here, follow me over to the board. And we're going to start here first. So So I'm Maestro Orlando. Tonight's class is going to focus on the 4 basic Italian thrusts. You'll know these primarily from Capoferra and Gigante. So these are good mechanical skills to train at the Pell, especially in times like this when we can't get together and fence one-on-one, to help develop your muscle mechanics and your muscle reaction to different strikes that your opponent might give you as well. So I'm going to look at the 4 basic ones that we've got here to begin with, and hopefully everybody can see this. So up here on the left side, the first one, punta is just the Italian word for thrust. So punta or punta dritto, this your normal thrust, is usually a strike straightforward, and it's performed in second guard. That's with the palm down. And if you were at Robin's class earlier in the week, he went over the 4 basic Italian guards. Punta reversi is a straightforward thrust to your opponent, but as you can see in this picture here, it's with the palm up in quarta, or 4th guard. Our third thrust that we're going to go over tonight is staccata. Staccata is a rising thrust coming up into your opponent, and it's performed generally in 3rd guard, which is palm facing in, or terza in Italian. And then finally, our 4th thrust that we're going to review tonight is imbricata. This is a downward thrust performed coming in from prima, or 1st guard. So we're going to review all 4 of these, and then once we've gone over all 4 of them, I'm going to show you how to drill each of them from the 3 basic Italian measures, or misura: perfetta, stretta, and then larga. And don't worry about these other guys over here. We're not going to review those at all. So if everybody's ready, I'm going to go and set up at the Pell and start going over this. So I'm going to switch the camera around because I get a better angle. Okay. Hey, Kat, could you take just a second to just make sure that I'm looking good on the back of this? Just take a second to make sure that I'm positioned well on this. Okay, so tonight I'm gonna go with my Marazzo, my smaller Marazzo blade. This is a crossover cut and thrust blade that I normally use. The reason I'm going to do this is so that we don't have as wide of a frame. By late period, they were using generally, a 42-inch blade was about the standard, but they were head blades outwards to 50, and there are many 45-inch blades found in the late 16th century and going into the 17th century. Okay, so I'm going to start in perfetta. Perfetta is generally where you can touch your opponent without moving any part of your body other than your arm. So perfetta is where I can touch my opponent without moving any other part of my body other than the arm. And if you'd like to walk through these with me, feel free to grab your sword and your glove and work on them right now. So our first one is going to be punta dritto, which is in second. So we come up and we shoot in second. True edge is out, and we're opposing our opponent's blade with our true edge to the outside. Our next thrust that we're gonna look at is punta reversi. Simply the other side, we come up into quarta and we thrust forward. With punta reversi, our true edge is to our opponent's outside. our opponent's blade to the outside in Porta. That's Punta Reversi. Our next one is Stoccata. This is very common. You'll see Don Robin, for instance, will shoot in Stoccata very often. This is a rising shot. With this, you're covering this lower line, or you're trying to come up under your opponent's blade. Just like that. In terza, or third guard. And finally, our fourth one is going to be Imbricata. You come up into prima and strike. You can see here, the true edge is up. One more time, prima and strike. Now, it's very important that you lead with the blade and the parry at the same time. You want to perform the parry and the thrust in stesso tempo, or what basically translates to same time. So, let's review it again one more time. Punta dritto, we come up and we strike in second. Punta reversi, we come up and strike in quarta. Stoccata, come up and strike in terza. And then imbricata, we come up and strike from prima, or first guard. Now, we had discussed performing these in each of the three primary measures. If you're an Agrippa fan, you might call these A range, B range, and C range. And you'll notice that if you go to a chivalric class, they generally use that terminology. Many of the Italian masters thought of them as perfetta, stretta, and larga. So I may interchange those terms just to get people used to all three of those. So we've already reviewed perfetta. Our next range that we're going to go out to is going to be stretta. Stretta is where I cannot touch my opponent by just simply moving my hand forward. But I can touch them by bending my waist or voiding my body slightly to get to my opponent. Now you'll notice when you do this, I'm not coming up and bringing that back foot up off of the ground. I'm simply moving my body at the waist and leaning in and striking. So, same thing. Punta reversi, stoccata, and imbricata. All from stretta. Keeping the vita, or the waist, away from your opponent as you come in. Punta. Oh, that's punta reversi. Punta, stoccata, and imbricata. Now, let me check the camera and make sure, because of this next one we're gonna add a lunge. And I want to make sure that my feet are down, that I can see my feet with this one. Okay, so I believe I can. Hopefully it's good. So, finally, the third measure that we're going to review is larga, or C range. From C range, I can not touch my opponent by only moving the arm. I can't touch my opponent by leaning in. But if I move my lead foot forward, I can touch my opponent. This is the performance of a lunge or a demi-lunge, depending on how far you want to go. Now, I'm not going to review hand-foot timing tonight. Tomorrow night's class is going to focus on hand-foot timing. So we're going to spend a lot of time tomorrow night in larga talking about how your hand and feet should time each other. All I want to work on tonight is these same three strikes or thrusts and how you should step forward. So, Very important when you lunge forward, and I'm keeping this small so that it's on the screen. The lunge can be much larger than this. It can also be much smaller. So when you lunge forward, you want to make sure that your toe is pointed towards your opponent. You don't want to lean your toe to the left or the right because those muscles aren't designed to take that kind of force. And eventually you're going to do that and you're going to torque your knee. There are plenty of people probably on the swashbucklers list right now that can tell you stories about torquing their knee one way or the other. I can tell you some stories because they weren't lunging properly. So when you lunge, toe forward. You want your knee to land in between your toe and your heel. You do not want it forward of the toe. You'll see period manuals that show people with their knee forward of the toe. They didn't understand that could be very bad for you. So you want to try and land your knee between the toe and the heel. Shoulder out. Remember, always hunt with the shoulder, not with the elbow. You fight with the shoulder, not with the elbow in thrust-oriented systems. So, same thing. We'll start on guard, in terza, and we'll come in, punta, and second, and return. Punta reversi, and return. Staccata, and return. And finally, imbricata, and return. As I said earlier in the video, this is a drill of mechanics, not a drill of strategy. So these drills aren't necessarily designed to make you a better strategist in the fight. They are designed to give you better muscle mechanics in the fight. So, one more time. Lunge in, punta. Punta reversi is in porta, staccata, and punta imbricata in prima. So, I'm going to switch the camera back around. Are you guys having trouble hearing me? So I'm going to do a final review at the board here. Today we went over our 4 major thrusts: punta, punta reversi, and staccata and imbricata. And we reviewed each of those thrusts in the 3 primary measures of perfetta, stretta, and larga, or A range, B range, and C range. Remember, easy way to remember the thrusts is that they follow along with your 4 basic hand positions. Staccata is in terza, punta dritto is in seconda, punta reversi is in quarta, and finally, imbricata is in prima. Okay, guys, well, that's tonight's class. Just a real short, sweet set of drills that you can work on. Remember to work on all 4 of your thrusts, in all 3 of the primary measures, as often as possible to get the muscle mechanics down. At 8 o'clock, Don Martin has his class on the sword robot. I know I'll be there. Hopefully everybody else will be there. And then tomorrow night at 7 o'clock also, I've got a class on hand-foot timing, and we'll pick up where we left off on this and talk about the hand-foot timing in Larga, blending some of George Silver and Agrippa's concepts about hand-foot timing. And then I'm hoping next week on Thursday to teach another class that builds on this one on Italian voids or sconci. So Thank you all very much, and I will post all of this material here on the Academy of the Rapier group page. And thank you, Mistress Rhiannon, for making all of this possible. Have a good evening, guys.